she reached out to me and then she said, send me a proposal. I'm working on this thing. I sent her the proposal. Remember how I said I was a one woman mopole at the time. And so I go on Canva, do the design and send to her. And she says, oh, Tolu, I don't think you can manage this project. That she doesn't get the feeling that I can manage a project of this magnitude. Gosh, that experience literally shook the foundation of my confidence in my capacity. I tell people that you can't say that you're a PR person and you're isolated. Oh, you don't talk to marketing, you don't talk to sales. Your failure is coming, they're going to fire you, right? Because your work will not have any results if you're not engaging marketing, if you're not engaging sales. You must be able to connect the work that you're doing with the results they are getting. Otherwise, sales will wake up one day and say, oh, I sold 1 trillion products, not knowing that PR contributed like 50% to it. But because you are not talking to sales, sales will take all the glory and you cannot question sales because they brought in the actual money. But where comes is not engaging sales, you are in the blind. Or you will then be hearing them saying, I posted on Facebook. In 2025, you better be doing more than posting on Facebook.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's that's a lot. I hope the PR guys that will listen to these will take a big leap from
They'll
that,
get it.
right? And of course,
They'll get-
read up on you. By the way, before we move on, just a few more questions, and we'll begin to drop this to bring this to a close.
Sure.
Now, the question I have is a bit like, again, two-sided, right? And one is like business facing, the other one is like, a bit like family and and all of that. Now it's around people, okay? And you said something around, fortunately for you, you've not had a lot of like failures around hiring. And if it is possible, I would just like you to talk a little bit, speak a little bit to that, right? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with at times finding the right people. At times you find the right people, how do you retain them? Especially with you that does like almost 100%, virtual kind of work environment versus people that even have like a physical office, right? So if you can speak a little bit to that, how do you what are your practices and processes are in terms of how you get people in, and then what processes and systems do you have around ensuring that they are learning and they are able to add value. Now that is a business sided that is a business focus of business facing side of the question. The other side of the question is, with all that you are involved with everything that you're involved with, Tolucomms, Mostron, and everything, how do you balance this with family, hobby, the kids, and all of that, and still manage to retain your sanity?
Not to run mad. Yeah. Well, so let's start with the hiring. So while I've not necessarily had a lot of challenges in terms of hiring, first of all, it's because my business does not require a lot of people.
Hmm.
Do you understand?
Mm.
So it's not that I've had to hire a lot of people and most of them have been good. No, it's because the team size is really bespoke. Right? It's really bespoke. That's number one. But I have had issues now. But first of all, this my last job that I had before I started Motion full time. It was the first time I had a direct report, and I was worried. See how I'm very focused on ensuring that there's value and that there's a process for me to transfer that value. For the longest time, I believed that I wasn't a good teacher. I don't think I'll be able to manage people well. I didn't know how to delegate. I just didn't believe that it was something I could do. And so when I was going to get this my first report on that job, I was really concerned. Was I going to be a good boss? How do I interact with this person? Again, so I'm somewhat bigger now. I was quite slim but some years back, and compare that with being a woman, even though honestly I've never really had any issue with, oh, she's a female or whatever. That's never been my experience, whether in school or on the job. It's never been. It's just let's do the work and everybody moves on. But it was really more about me questioning my personal capacity to lead. It wasn't something that I was really convinced about. But then I had this, my report, right? And I guess we did well because when he was eventually going to move on from the, when I was going to move on from the organization, he then wrote me a recommendation on LinkedIn. And he said that he thought he was coming to work. He didn't know he was coming to school. I don't understand. Yeah, so apparently it was quite. Now,
Yeah.
this was feedback from somebody where we were both employees, right?
Mm,
It was just a lot of, I mean, let's do the thing the way it should be done. And
mm,
again, because there's a way I do PR that's not necessarily very common,
mm,
right? If you're interacting with that process, I mean, except there's a problem, it's a
mm,
lot of learning, right? So from that experience, when I then started Mosrun, it was also the same challenge. I don't think it was first a personal fear of, I don't think I'll be able to cope with hiring people. How do I manage? What do I tell them? I didn't understand
mm,
what I was going to be saying.
mm,
It was a lot of a problem. And I mean, until I was literally overwhelmed with work,
mm,
I didn't hire my first staff. And even
mm,
that first staff. So at this time, I was also running Nigerian Women in PR. It
mm,
was something that I was doing on the side. It was essentially created Twitter page, Instagram page, and just post when I remember and I
mm,
have the capacity. Now, just before then, again, I've always been active on LinkedIn. I
mm.
was always writing. And so before I even started my business full time, I would have young people say, "Oh, I'd like you to mentor me." I don't understand what that means because, again, I've always written stuff,
Yeah.
right? But I want Tolu, I'd like to support you in what you're doing. Is there a way I can learn from you? In my mind, there wasn't anything I was doing that you could learn from or how you could support me in what I don't know. But there was this very insistent lady who said, "Oh, she wanted to do stuff for me because she was on my case." Oh yeah, I'm doing Nigerian women in PR. Please go and check the Instagram, the Twitter page. Let me
Mm,
know what your assessment is and how we can improve it. She did sent me a DM on Twitter, came back. Oh yeah, volunteer, yeah, be managing the page, and I gave her access to it. And that was it. She was still in school at the time. And then she went for service and she was still volunteering with me. When she finished service, she didn't get a job immediately. And I felt
mm,
bad. This girl has been volunteering with me for some 12 months.
mm,
How can I then, in good conscience, know that she's not working and then
mm,
say, let's keep praying to God? Oh, yeah, come.
mm,
As a stopgap until
mm,
you get a job, you can come and work at Muslim.
mm,
And you see, each time, I thank God that she was my first staff because it felt like, I mean, so at that time, one of the processes I'd created was you have to learn how to self manage. I wasn't willing to be holding anybody's hand. It was remote. I wasn't willing to spend my time to be saying, "So, are you at work? Are you working?" That was something I was very clear from the beginning. I wasn't willing to do. It was about we agree on the deliverables. If you finish your deliverables at 10 a.m. and there's no work to do, no problem. Let's agree on the work to do and let's do it and we're okay. So each time I brought in new team members at that time, I gave them a task. Create your self development task. What are the things you want to learn over the next 3 months? Determine it by yourself without input from me. And they would make that presentation to me. This is my first staff who had been volunteering with me for 12 months. Did her presentation and said that she wanted to become Tolucomms in 3 months. In 3 months. You know the sweat and tears I went through to become whatever it is you are saying that you want to become. But that challenge, it was funny because first it then made me see that, oh, there's something I know or that I'm doing that people that she liked and wanted to become. Because in my mind, what am I that you want to become? We are posting, you are posting. All of us are on LinkedIn, we're on LinkedIn. So what do you want to learn again? But that was my first experience. And gosh, she was so dedicated. She was the one, I mean, together we created like the first staff handbook for Mosron and all of that. It was just somebody that was really interested in working. And then from there, my second team member, gosh, was also brilliant. And this lady was in Russia. She's one of the staff that I'd never met. Now, one hack I found as a founder in getting good stuff is that I had a personal brand first. People wanted to do things with me. Anything that was then involved in was just like an expression. They wanted to either interact with me, they wanted to work with me, they were inspired by my own story. And I've been building this not because I wanted people to be inspired or whatever. I was just sharing because I have to write and get money because of hunger that was knocking. And but people were getting inspired on the side, right? So ordinarily, I would get young people who would send me DMs to say, "Oh, Tolu, please, I want to work with you." And because in my mind, there's no work for you to come and do here anyway. There was a so that's how the first set of people that I engaged were literally people who pitched to me that they wanted to work with me. This Russian lady, she had done a research. She just finished university in Russia, and she had done it. She wanted to do PR in Africa, and so she wanted insight about that. She had researched about three, four founders in Nigeria, and she reached out to me because I'd done an interview on Arise TV. It was about the time of NSAS, and I was speaking about that on TV. And she found it. She sent me a pitch about why she wanted to work with me. I was amazed. What am I doing in that? And this lady, she worked with me for some 3+ years. She's still freelancing for me till now, right? So the people I got and the first great experiences I had as an employer were people who just wanted to interact with me and they felt it was a privilege for them to work with me,
Work with you.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's how I managed. But then, of course, as the business grew, I started to get people. I started to create processes because people can run you mad, right? People don't know anything. Many people have zero upstairs. First of all, I found the people who are going to give you the most problem will ask you for the most money because they
Mm,
don't know anything, but they believe they know it. They are very insistent on, I know my rights,
mm.
especially for a young person. You don't have like 10 years experience, 8 years experience. You're coming to an interview with that body language of
Braggadocio.
I know my
Yeah.
yeah. And thankfully, because I'm hiring in an industry that I'm aware of, each time I tell my team members, there is nothing you want to do that I won't know. There is nowhere you want to hide that because it's the same industry. It's the same comms. When you started, I also know how I started. I know the things I was doing, so you can't hide. There's no grammar you want to use to cover it that cannot be uncovered. In terms of internal processes, though, what do we do? How do we ensure that there's learning? So very quickly, we had created a staff handbook for people to join because I found out that I can't be telling people every time. Just read the staff handbook, and each time a new team member joins, many times you ask team members, so what are we not doing right? I'm not always very interested in the things that we are doing right. Most of the time I can see. I'm more interested in getting information about my blind spots. What are the things that frustrate you as a staff on this job? From your interaction with clients, what do you think are the things we are not doing well that would improve our results to clients or that will make clients more comfortable with us? We also have our Friday learnings, the staff presentation every Friday. Everybody must read at least 5 articles, industry related and non-related, and make a presentation, right? And with that, I teach presentation skills because when you are making the presentation, when you finish, everybody on the call will critique your presentation. So
Every
you learn
Friday.
public speaking every Friday, 5 articles. And then other days we do simulations of presenting to a client because some of the times I've had my team members join me on a client call and oh yeah, say something and they are stammering. Communication
Mm.
person. Whether you are 3 months post graduation or 5 years post graduation, everybody do simulation. Everybody, just practice,
Get
regardless
comfortable.
of yes,
Mm,
get comfortable because I can call on you anytime. And
mm.
these days, I also reduce the amount of public engagement that I do and try to bring my team members up. I can't send you to go and represent and you fall my hand. First of
Mm.
all, on the WhatsApp, so most of our engagement is on all of our engagement is on WhatsApp. And I
Mm.
tell my if you mess me up, I will find you to your house and mess you up.
That's a
Yeah. And she
threat.
told, yeah. I tell no. So again, when I'm up front. If you go and spoil my eyes there, we will find ourselves and we will mess ourselves up. And again, because there's now a proper training system where
Mm.
it will be really village people that will be after you if you go
Yeah.
outside and mess up. Because with the training system internally, you have your colleagues giving you
Feedback.
it's not
Mm.
oh you did well. If everybody is telling you you did well, I remind them, excuse me, you are not
We're
her
not here
boyfriend.
for. Mm.
We are not here to rub your head. Please give her proper feedback so that she can improve. And what we
Mm.
then remind ourselves, whatever feedback you get today in terms of areas of improvement, you can't come back next week and repeat the
I
same
was
thing. It
taking
means
it.
you're not learning
Yeah.
and you cannot waste our time. Right.
Mm.
So that's how that's managed. Finally, in terms of family, I work from home. The cheat code for me, because I can be lazy, and my spouse will tell you that. The cheat code for me, honestly, is having a domestic assistant. Now, thankfully, when I started the business, my kids were just growing. So it was perfect. It was like a perfect timing. The kids required me. It was great for me to be available at home and I was raising the kids and I was also working from home. So it was great. But even in that greatness, because when I started building the business, there wasn't I close at 5 p.m., right? I had a domestic assistant quickly. It wasn't living. I also live in a low income, as it were, environment very deliberately. My husband is a farmer. So we sort of stay in a place that is um not very expensive in terms of living costs, right? So my domestic assistant stays around. She walks from my house to my house, and then she closes. But as the kids grew up, we also reduced our time. So now she resumes at 12 o'clock or 2 p.m. and closes at 6 o'clock. When she's around, I tell her, please assume that you can't see me. I'm invisible. I'm not in this house, so it's just that you can see my body. If I'm seated at this laptop, I mean, it must be an act of God that would get me to stand up. Oh, hello, ma. The children are not eating. If I'm in Ikoyi, will you call me to tell me the children are not eating? You better sort it out. Do you see? So there's complete separation, right? And my office space is just like an extension of my living room. The kids can literally see me. But when mommy is at her laptop, they know that mommy is working. So there's separation of mommy time and children time. And to be fair, when I started Most Run, I do know because it did impact our relationship a bit. I remember my husband complaining. That's when I found out that, oh, women multitask. For me, is a lie. You can't be talking to me and I'm working. My ears are deaf, unfortunately. I can't hear it. Right? If I'm on my system and somebody else is talking to me, I literally cannot hear anybody else. Even if I'm not talking to, I'm completely in that zone. And it was a lot of challenge for us then because he would want to gist with me. There was too much riding on it for me to just do it anyhow because no, 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 no. So that caused actually a lot of friction for us because then I wasn't as attentive at the house with my spouse because obviously domestic assistants cannot do you anything with your
Certain
spouse.
things.
They
Yeah.
can help you with they can help you with the children. They can't help you with your spouse, right? I mean, so there would be that friction, honestly. And one of the
Mm.
things I do recommend is for spouses to be more understanding, especially when businesses are just coming up.
Let me ask you one final question, right? Maybe it's two-sided, but final one. You know the way preachers used to say first closing, second closing. This is final two questions. Right. Now, if I'm trying to crystallize all of your story, right? And I normally ask this question in a different way, but I, I can't help wonder, right? Look at it that okay, I can't help wonder. Look at the way you were brought up, right? The fact that your dad had a lot of books, right? And you loved reading, and somehow you found yourself studying English. I don't know what informed that choice, right? Because people would think it's because you love something that you are reading English or some. Do you get what I mean? But you found yourself reading English, but even if you didn't read English, right, you probably will have ended up doing what you're doing because it's just you, right? And then you continue to navigate your way along that path to where you are today, right? And for me, it looks like you're made for this, right? And the first the first question around is if you want to do this again, right? Are there things that you will do differently, right? That is, if you yes, probably you still arrive at the same door, but are there things you would do differently that will help you go faster, right? On one hand, and then on the other hand is will it even do it?
Oh,
You understand? Will you even do it? And if you will do it, will you do it differently? And then is there any final advice, sorry, or word for young startups out there? You know, as a veteran that you are now, if you have been doing something for 20 years, you're a veteran of some sort, right? Are there any like final thoughts and words that you would like to share for
Right.
people who, so it looks like three in one, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand. Will you
Yeah.
do it again if you have to do it again? And if you're going to do that, what will you do differently?
Mm.
And then any final thought for, our listeners out there?
Right. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Absolutely. So secondary school, when you're leaving secondary school, they ask, what do you want to be in the future? And I remember writing in that yearbook that I wanted to be a lawyer and a journalist. Right. I actually wanted to study law. Most of us who study English, we actually wanted to study law, but they gave us English. Do you see? Um, but I find, you see, God is a master planner. I find that public relations actually still allows me to express that desire for legal studies and journalism in peer, right? Because as a public relations professional, you need to speak on behalf of your clients, you need to understand some legal terminologies and just some things, right? From legal standpoint of view, and then of course journalism because now there's media and you need. So it's just a combination of the two. I find that PR provides that platform that answers the desire of my heart to be both a lawyer and a journalist. So it was just perfect for me. And like I said, if I started a business in 2006, that's when I found PR. I still don't remember till today when I first came across that profession, where I started writing the exams while I was in school. And I was super clear, right? So again, remember that I'm generally a planner. I had the life plan as at 2005, right? Of what I was going to be doing at 40. So there was all of that clarity, right? So for me, would I do it? Absolutely, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. However, I would spend my money more intentionally, right? Because as the money started to come in, and this is more really for female founders. Just see. I'm not sure how to talk about that here, but I'll spend the funds of the business a bit more intentionally, and not be necessarily constrained by societal expectation in terms of spousal dependence, right? We have a lot of critical money conversations as I started to do well in the business, right? But eventually we got to that point. What I'm saying is that I would have had that conversation a bit more earlier. I use the money a bit more wisely. From the business perspective, I would have hired a freelance graphic designer earlier. Right. One of the critical turning points for my business was when I got this prospective client that I was really looking up to. And I was so certain that if only I got an opportunity to work with her, my life would change forever. And then she reached out to me and then she said, send me a proposal. I'm working on this thing. I sent her the proposal. Remember how I said I was a one woman mopole at the time. And so I go on Canva, do the design and send to her. And she says, oh, Tolu, I don't think you can manage this project. That she doesn't get the feeling that I can manage a project of this magnitude. Gosh, you see, again, I've written about this and it's on my LinkedIn. That's why when people ask me for mentorship, what else am I supposed to say? Everything is there. And I wrote, and that experience literally shook the foundation of my confidence in my capacity as a
Because you could
professional.
afford, sorry to cut in, you could afford to hire, somebody to
It
do
wasn't
it for you
necessarily that I
then.
could afford it because eventually I did hire the person. It wasn't because the money was available. It was just I didn't see it as an expense because I thought I could do it. And I can do it, but
Mm,
just not at the level of a professional. I
of
could
a
do something
professional.
passable, right? Because I
Mm,
mean, once I got that feedback, what I started to do was I reached out to people. I engaged. I paid two marketing and PR professionals to join me as freelancers, as strategists, so that when I got PR briefs, I would send them these briefs on WhatsApp and we would do the strategy together. And you know what I found? That the strategies I was coming up with by myself was much better than the strategies these other guys were coming up with, right? But what I eventually told myself, because I paid them, and at that time, it wasn't that I had the money, but I mean, this was a client that I was really looking forward to working with, and then comes back and tells me, Tolu, I don't think you can do it. I started to ask myself, Tolu, are you sure it's not just mouth you two you have? Maybe you can't really do this thing, right? So I now reached out to people who were already working with agencies who had years of experience, but they are just worked with more brands, just so that I could show up my experience, my confidence, because I thought maybe I really didn't know it. But by the time I was engaging them, the things I was coming up with on my own was much better. What I termed that expense as was that I paid to restore my confidence, right? And so it was the same time also because this lady, one of the feedback she gave was that my presentation, my proposal was just horrible. He didn't really communicate that I could do what I was saying. And because I had shared that proposal also with a couple of people, the consensus was the strategy was great, but the presentation was horrible. Do you understand? And so I didn't have the money, but it was the same way I didn't have the money to pay these two other guys 250K each at that time, right? Just to because I was really shaking. Is it that I don't know this thing? This was somebody I really wanted to work with. She came to me and then it looked like I flopped it. Eventually, I engaged this freelancer guy, the same content for that same proposal. He designed it. I sent it to her, not because I wanted to get the job back, because I thought I'd lost the opportunity. I just wanted her to see that, oh, I could really do it. And I presented a better proposal. And she was like, oh, Tolu, let's have a meeting. Ah, so if I had known, I would have engaged the freelancer. And so
I would have saved you a lot
one
of.
of the things I learned is that you can do it. If you cannot do it as well, pay somebody who can so that you can focus on your expertise,
On the
right?
key things that
Yes, focus on the key things and let the people who are experts do the work,
do their
right?
thing.
But find people at your level. You don't need to go and find this guy that I employed at that time. Yeah. Because sometimes, we want to go and borrow money to
Yeah.
the guy was paying him maybe 30K per month or there per
Mm,
brief or something like that.
mm,
It wasn't crazy money that would literally kill me. It was from the business, but
mm.
now I didn't have as much savings. But oh, the confidence I got back after that second feedback was transformational, right? And that's something. What will I tell founders? What I just said now. Focus on your own area. I mean, yes, because you may not have a lot of money when you start, it may be difficult for you to say, oh, how do I employ people? They are freelancers. Join communities. Communities was one of my cheat codes to develop, grow this business. I joined a number of communities. I was active in those communities. Again, I've written about this. If I'm on any WhatsApp group, whatever it is they're talking about, my only conversation there is about communications. In fact, it was on one of those WhatsApp groups that somebody named me Tolucomms. Yeah.
Ah.
Unfortunately, I can't find that thing again. I would have done a screenshot and laminated it, and that became my name. Because whatever, if you are talking politics, I'm on the group, I will talk about it from a communication standpoint. There is no way I'll be on the group and you will not know that it's comms I'm doing. That was my marketing strategy. And it continues to be. So if I'm on a group and if you are not active and you're a founder, you don't need money. Like I said, hunger was pursuing me, like it was calling my son name. Some people they have money, they have backup. I didn't have any backing, so it was either work or starve. Right? So yeah, be active in the communities that you're on. If you're a service entrepreneur, I mean, I watched one of the interviews that you did with Toyin, and there was
Mm,
conversation about funding for startup. If you're a service
yeah.
business, I have done it several times, even as a
Mm,
product business founder. You don't need
mm.
1 naira to start.
Absolutely.
You don't need it.
Absolutely. Mm,
On another side, that is not Tolucomms, I have another product business that's 100% internet based. And I mean, if you have a phone and you have internet and you
mm,
have the idea, you don't need any other money. The business, if you
mm,
do it well, will provide the money that you need to scale it up. If you want to scale it up,
mm,
because that's the other thing.
mm,
There's a lot of pressure for founders to scale. Your definition of
mm,
success must be your own, not what
mm.
the world determines success to
Defined
be,
for
defines
you.
it to be. You should be comfortable. Whatever you say is your success. If success for you means you're serving clients only in Lagos, you should be confident anywhere to say it. When I started my business, one of the challenges I had was that do I want a business that will become so big that will start giving me sleepless nights? I didn't want it. I didn't want business success where I would have to sacrifice my family, right? Because you know how sometimes it's like you design something and it starts growing bigger. You are not the one driving it again, it's the one driving you. I didn't want a business that will start driving me to where I don't know, like we say in Nigeria. I didn't want it to take me to where I didn't know. I wanted a clear, this is what I want my future to be like. And the business supports me to get to that future, not drives me. And then I get to the future and I'm like, but this is not what I like. No, 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 no. Family is critical to me. And I didn't want a business that would steal that away from me. And as a founder, it's easy for you to lose sight of the things, the values that are important to you. And that's one of the things I found as a business owner. Um, if you don't have very clear values when you start up as a founder, if you are only interested in the money, money will come at the expense of your values if you are not clear and determined to stay by it, right? I could absolutely have made more money if I was willing to cut corners or neglect my principles and my values. Like I tell my team members, and now they say it, any money I will get that will not allow me to sleep, please, the money can go. I did not borrow money from bank. I should not be having sleepless nights. That may not be the reality for a product founder that needs to start to set up a warehouse and all of that. No. Our realities are different. As a service entrepreneur, your capacity is really dependent on your competence. You should not have to sacrifice your ethics and your values and your principles in pursuit of money. The money is always available if you want it, but don't sacrifice your life for it. And health is wealth, oh, as I round up. Your health is so
Health
important.
is
I mean, my gosh, don't fall sick. Hypertension is real for founders. At 30 years old, you can have hypertension if you don't manage it. I tell you that from
Mm.
experience.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is the first time we're going over 2 hours on any interview since we started. And it's not just because you said, it's because you shared a lot and you're sharing from your soul, right? And because you've gone through a lot and you just, it's good for people to be able to, learn from your story, right? And the peculiarities of your journey, right? Which is quite unusual, like I said to you earlier. So thank you so much. Now I understand why your report would say that I thought I was getting the job. I didn't know it was a school. Because I'm sure
Yeah,
the guy must have learned a lot,
Lord. Well,
right? Just by
try.
daily interacting with you. So thanks a lot for coming on the podcast.
Thank
We
you
are
for
super,
having me.
super thankful. It's our
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me,
Thank you.
Kale.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the opportunity to share as well. I wish everyone success as you go on in your own journey.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you on the next episode.